So, we're here. I want to ask you real quick, Angela, what are your top three softwares for business owners right now? Top three softwares. What do you like?
Oh my gosh, like there's so many.
If
Let's
I
see.
said you
I'm
got to
like,
shut it down, you can only have three softwares for your business. What would be the three that you would go with?
well, Google Drive
Yep.
would, I mean, 100%. And I'll tell you, the only reason that we like Dropbox is a lot of the projects we work on are image heavy. And it's one simple little thing that you can't do in Google Drive. You can't take three fingers on a Mac and drag it over to our design program. Now, if it's in
Mhm.
Dropbox, you can take three fingers, drag it in the design program, and it's done. So for me, it's like if I have to click more than twice or drag more than twice, like I'm not doing it. So that's
Sure.
probably the real reason that we still use it. But if I had to say three, I would say definitely Google Drive. And then I would also say Loom, which
Hmm.
is a software. It's also through Google, but you record your screen. And then that's how we build all these video libraries for people. We also do it for our clients. And I used to use QuickTime, but then you have to worry about where am I going to store the video? Do I have to put it on the back end of Vimeo? Do I have to put it on YouTube? But then it's private, and then that hurts the back end of my YouTube stuff. So Loom is easy. So I would say we probably use Loom every single day.
Hmm.
And then the third thing I would say is definitely Marco Polo, because it is a it takes away all of the miscommunication. It really does. Because an email or a text or something in Slack can be so misinterpreted based on what people are feeling or seeing at the time. So I would definitely, like, I can't live without those three things, or I can't do business without those three things. I could live without them, but to run a business, I'm like, I need to communicate with my people.
Well, that's what it's all about. It's about communication, and that's the key to efficiency. Is how can we be communicating better? Slack is a platform that I love Slack. It makes it really easy for me to communicate with my team. I was playing with Trello for a while. I haven't
Yeah.
been is big
I
on
don't
that.
love it.
Yeah, I don't love it either, but I do feel like there is a bit of a gap in the systems in again, communication, making sure that my video editor knows, okay, video's up, and that my social media poster knows, okay, the videos are done, and then my podcast booker knows, okay, that all the content's done. I got to send the packet to the guest, right? So I'm trying to find a good way of doing that. I'm curious, what are you doing for
Yeah.
inter office communication there?
So I can tell you, like, some of the things that you were just saying, like we use Infusionsoft. My
Mhm.
team calls it Confusionsoft, but we've been in bed with them for almost a decade. I'm like, and I know they rebranded to Keep. I'm like, get over it, we're not changing. Like, we got way too many tags and way too much systems in there. And like all the funnels are hooked up to so many different landing pages. But how we've automated some of those things, if we have set up funnels within our CRM, and it doesn't have to be that. Like, there's lots of different platforms out there that can help you set up automation. And so from podcasting, I'll just take that for example. If someone fills out the guest form or the sponsor form, there that's going to go into, and it's going to send a trigger tag, and then that trigger tag is going to send an email, and then it'll say, thank you, blah 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 blah. If you want the packet, if you want this, click here. Everything we I'm big on owning all of my content, because many years ago, when this thing called Facebook started to allow businesses to do all this stuff through Facebook, and then they changed a few things one day, and I realized Facebook owned everything, and I lost a bunch
Yeah.
of stuff, like hundreds of speaker reviews. And my web guy was like, "Oh, we didn't back it up on, and we didn't put it on your blog, and I'm so sorry." And I'm not a crier. I'm like, "Oh, everything happens for a reason." But that hurt. But I'm
Mm.
glad it happened when it did, because I'm like, never again. So I'm really big of owning everything ourselves. So everything goes on the back end of WordPress. Like, we have a back end that you can only get to, like, if we send you a link, and all of our packets, our media packet, our podcast packet, our sponsorship packet, all of the stuff is on the back end. And then we link it in our automation. And so and we're also tracking it. So we track everything. So when you click it, it shows that on the back end, it's called Pretty Links. It's a plugin to WordPress. So you can do special links for everything that you're doing. And then that way it removes this whole back and forth. And then, of
Yeah.
course, we use Calendly, and we
Yep.
say, if you want to book this time. And sometimes, like, even with us, like, our right hands were involved, because it's like sometimes I'm like, hey, I really want to do this and this. I'm like, let's just shift some things around. But 90% of the time, we've worked really hard to set up the automation, not at all to replace a human, okay? But to elevate customer service for faster responses and just to expedite things. Because if we didn't have that automation, the email would come into Amanda. Amanda would have to go to the back end, copy the link, paste it over to the person. It's like I'm all about how can we eliminate the back and forthness? Like,
Mhm.
how can we just give everybody all the information up front? And then, of course, I do it like you, I do a ton of video. And then we use Otter or rev.com, depending on what we're doing it for. And everything is transcribed. And then
Mhm.
that also is like all done through our blog. So once you have this mentality of like, okay, everything needs to go in one place and it needs to be named appropriately or tracked appropriately. And once you get on that wash, rinse, repeat system, it's kind of like second nature. Like you just know to start doing that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you on all of this and using the systems to supplement and automate. Because the cool thing about systems is
Yes.
I don't want to say they always work, but there's something about setting up a system the right way, and then exactly what the result is going to be. I want to hear your thoughts on Calendly actually, because I love Calendly.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But I've been in a lot of podcast rooms on Clubhouse, and there's a lot of people that hate getting Calendly links to schedule. Do you have thoughts on this?
I do. In fact, before I came and talked to you, I was doing a live with two of my team members. And one of our team members, she's like, "Why do you like Calendly so much? Like, I hate it. It's double booked and overbooked." And I'm like, hold on, time out. First off, and I say this with love, it is user error. Like, because people are too busy and they're halfway paying attention. And there are a few things from a setup perspective that you just have to know what you're doing. And she's like, "Well, I talked to Calendly support and they walked me through it and it's set up correctly on Calendly's end." And that's the key word. What people don't understand is the two systems have to talk to each other.
Mhm.
And so what has happened recently, because when people's stuff breaks, it's like we're the IT people, which is fine. I'm like, you could just call Apple, but it's okay. I love it that people think of us. It's like I'm over here fixing people's iPhones. It's all good. But when iOS has an update or Calendly has an update, when anything has an update, you have to understand things are going to break. Technology is going to break. It's going to come unhooked. And you've got to get into this mindset of checking. So for us years ago, our intake form, and I was so busy, I wasn't really paying attention. And one of my girls that worked for me, she's like, "So what's our calendar looking like for the next quarter?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I haven't really looked ahead." This is what taught us to look 6 months ahead of like what's in our pipeline. And she's like, "We haven't gotten any intake forms." I'm like, "What?" Our system came unhooked in Infusionsoft because of an update, and like I didn't even know it. So the first of every month, one of our team members goes on our website and fills out our forms to make sure they're working correctly.
Oh,
I
that's
mean, that's
smart.
just one thing, but you have to make sure it's working correctly. So as I dug into it, there's two layers here. The iOS update unhooked something, and because she uses iCal, which is what we use. So we have iCal, we use Google Calendar, but it integrates with iCal. And then we also use Zoho. We have a Zoho calendar that also plugs into iCal. So I tell you this because when people are like, "Oh my God, this is so complicated," I'm like, if I can get my stuff to work with Calendly, so can you. But it's what system are you plugging into? And is that working and talking to Calendly? So that's the first layer of making sure both ends are talking to each other. The next thing that I guess we do it differently from what I'm hearing is that I only have certain days that are Calendly days for me.
Mhm.
So we have a calendar that is powered through iCloud because I'm all like Apple stuff. We don't even run that through Google. We connected iCal, that one calendar. I have 9 different calendars. It looks like a Christmas tree over here. But yellow is the Calendly calendar. And we only do either a half day a week and then a full day a month with Calendly links. And then we only link those links to those dates. That way, if you tried to put Calendly into all my calendars and pull and see everything that's happening, I don't think it would crash. It wouldn't work. And so if you can really set aside specific dates in your Google Calendar or your iCalendar or your Zoho calendar and hook those dates up to Calendly, we block those whole dates. And then on the back end of Calendly, they're all segmented out in like 30 minutes with a 15-second buffer. So when someone goes and books, it shows up on my calendar yellow, which tells me tomorrow's a Calendly day. But internally, we have blocked that entire day as a Calendly day, because if you start to hook Calendly up to 2 and 3 different systems, it's probably not gonna work. Does that make sense? Like, making sure that
Well, yeah, the more
you book
systems you
specific days?
yeah, the more systems you integrate, the more complicated it gets. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.